Fraser, what's the biggest problem right now with traditional anxiety treatment and therapy?
So I think with a lot of traditional anxiety treatments, if you're just talking to a therapist, they can give you some great tools and tips, but you're still very much staying in your like frontal lobe conscious mind. Um, a lot of what we're learning at our clinic is, anxiety has a lot to do with the nervous system and how your brain's been programmed to. So it's really getting into the inner workings of what's actually making you anxious and what are those underlying causes subconsciously that is causing that outward anxiety.
Welcome back to the Odyssey Method with Fraser Johnston. Fraser is the founder and CEO of EntheoMed, which is Kelowna's premier clinic for alternative pain treatments and innovative mental health solutions in the rapidly growing psychedelic therapy field. Fraser pioneered the Odyssey Method, which is a holistic psychedelic therapy model designed to create lasting change. So, Fraser, I want to know, what is EntheoMed's approach to anxiety and why is it different than what the traditional anxiety therapy looks like?
So we don't use any traditional antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds that you might see prescribed at a GP's office. We specifically specialize in psychedelic-assisted therapy, using ketamine, psilocybin, or MDMA. So really what we're trying to do is use this, psychedelic experience as a catalyst that can allow that person to delve into their inner world and really figure out some of the root causes that is causing these mental health conditions. Because a lot of the time, people have been in these states for years, decades, and they've never actually looked under the hood at what could potentially be causing these problems.
And could you give me a real life example on how that actually works?
Absolutely. So, if someone had potentially been seeing their therapist for years, they've been on traditional antidepressants and they've had no change in their, how they're experiencing their own anxiety. And a lot of times, Mark, people will work with, if they're working with a therapist, they'll do things like a GAD-7 intake score, or score is how people would generally score anxiety. You have PCL-5 for PTSD, GAD-7 for anxiety.
The GAD-7 scale for anxiety, is that measured on like a scale of 1 to 7?
So it's basically so the kind of GAD, or the GAD-7 anxiety score, you'd be looking at a whole host of questions that have a sliding scale. So it's self-reported, so people will fill these out. So if they've been working with a therapist, they might be filling out these scales and they'll essentially never see a difference, or maybe like a 1 point drop. What we're looking at the clinic, Mark, is, we collect data from all of our clients before treatment, after treatment, 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. So, for some of these, GAD-7 or PTSD scales or depression scales, we're seeing like huge reductions after 1 or 2 treatments. And people have literally been like, I'm a new person. Or even if their wife or their husband is talking to us, they're just like, I cannot believe the difference, or seeing the change in this person. Especially if they've been stuck in a rut for so long.
Yeah, one of my close friends has pretty bad anxiety, and but it's like you said, it's been their struggle for so long. It's not like they've really been able to find, I guess, resolve the problems instead of like treating the symptoms in a way. But I know that they've struggled for like so many long years that they'd love to find, I guess, get over that hurdle, and really find the other side of post, or I don't know if you can call it post anxiety, but and so you mentioned that it's only potentially a couple sessions of the Odyssey Method, the psychedelic therapy treatment. It's only a couple sessions, you say, that people can kind of see what sort of realistic outcomes from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, everyone's different, Mark. We've had some people who have done one session and been like, holy smokes, I've seen the light. And I think the longest one we've had, so we've maybe 14 or 15 treatments. So, there's a pretty wide spectrum there. But generally, with how ketamine works in the brain, people will see, almost immediate reduction in anxiety, during the session, and, days or weeks following. And especially if they're doing the other modalities like the breathwork, meditation, yoga, etc., and really helping to regulate that nervous system, they can see some pretty long-term beneficial outcomes. But I think that's the biggest thing, especially even in my own experience of anxiety, is if your nervous system is left unchecked and dysregulated, it just starts to feed this loop. Your thoughts feed your emotions and your emotions feed your thoughts, and it becomes this pretty brutal feedback cycle. So really what we're looking is, how can we, interrupt the pattern that has been running in the background for so long?
And what sort of medical professionals are at your clinic, EntheoMed in Kelowna? What sort of like medical professionals do you have that work on someone who comes in for the Odyssey Method for anxiety?
So we do have a multidisciplinary team of individuals. So, someone coming in for the first time, they will see a psych nurse in their mental health consult. They'll see their physician in their physical consult. And then, all of our therapists are either psychiatrists, psychologists, masters of clinical counseling. So really highly qualified there that have all done their own, research and also their own qualifications in the field of psychedelic therapy too. Our physicians well qualified, our nurses are all trained, so advanced cardiac life support, and they're also trained as psychedelic facilitators too. So kind of everyone that patient will have an interaction with is well trained, and really geared towards how to create positive outcomes for that client.
And where can someone go to get started if they're interested in learning more or potentially applying for the Odyssey Method at your clinic?
So if they go to entheomed.ca, great place to learn is through our discovery guide that you can download in the inquiry form, or also just book a free 15-minute discovery call. The team is always happy to chat to anyone and walk you through the process.
And if you have any questions on the Odyssey Method, psychedelics, and medically assisted psychedelic therapy, let us know in the comments on this video, and be sure to subscribe to the Odyssey Method with Fraser Johnston to get more videos like this.